Welcome to another video on the Learning Resource Center. Today we're going to watch a video on research and analysis. Now that you are a student here at University of the People, you will be expected to write many academic posts as far as discussion posts and writing assignments and learning journals or portfolios, and all of those posts other than your own reflections are going to come from what you read and analyze through your studies. So I'm going to take us straight to research and analysis, and we're going to talk about what is in this portal in the Learning Resource Center for you to use to help you as you work through your program here at UoPeople. You're going to learn to apply critical thinking, reading, and writing skills as you research. So if you are a graduate student in your undergraduate program, you may or may not have had to do a lot of research. If you are a teacher and you completed a teacher education program, you really learned more about strategies and methods as opposed to doing research about why those strategies and methods work. If you're an undergrad in a program, business or computer science or whatever you're taking, you need to learn to do research so that you can learn about the topic in which you're specializing. You also need to be able to tell if your source is credible. So if you find an article you like, but it's on Wikipedia or Course Hero, that may or may not be credible. But you can get sources from Wikipedia and from Course Hero and then go read those sources directly yourself, and that might be a way to find good research. So we're going to start with the FAQ, frequently asked questions, about research and analysis itself, not necessarily about this page. How do I research and why should I practice this? So I know that everyone's busy and sometimes doing research gets tiring, but you're in a college program. So research is expected of you. You're going to have to devote some time to finding the truth, not just telling your instructor what you believe to be true. So this is why you research, to find information that is coming from experts who know about the topic that you're studying. You need to be able to tell when research is, as I've said, credible. So there's a tutorial. You kind of need to get used to this site. Excelsior College has an online writing lab, and they give you a lot of information about the research process and how to proceed through it. And I know it looks like a lot, but it's not that long and you don't have to necessarily study it. But I would take some time and go through the research process overview because if you've never researched, it's not just something that you do automatically. And particularly if you haven't researched for an academic purpose. So maybe you've done some research because your boss asks you a question, but that's not the same as researching so that you can write an academic paper. So I highly encourage you to visit Excelsior in their online writing lab, because there's a lot of good information that can help you. Library, I'm going to do another video on. This says it's a tutorial, but it's not. It just takes you to the library. So I'll show you how to use that. How you evaluate if something is reliable. Anybody can put anything on the internet, and it may or may not be true. So reputable sources come from different organizations, and You can take a look at the website. If it's edu, it's an education website. If it's .gov, it's a government website. If it's .com, that is a commercial website, and it may or may not be reliable. So there is information in Excelsior where they're going to tell you about how to find reliable sources, so that when you do your research, you know if that author is credible. What if my sources contradict each other, and where can I look for reputable sources? And this is where the various domains, like I said, the .edu, the .gov. So you might already know some of this, but again, take a look at it. It's there for you to use for free. So I just encourage you not to take shortcuts because you think you already know everything. Really do your work. Now that you're here at UoPeople, again, I know everybody's busy, but if you start this right in your first class or early classes, you don't have to learn it again. You just get better at it. Okay. So that's frequently asked questions. We're going to use the breadcrumbs. So these are called breadcrumbs. And we're going to go back to research and analysis. But certainly go back to the FAQs because it gives you the link to Excelsior. Then we're going to look at the portal that really talks about research strategies. So again, you might think you know how to research and just dive into it, and it's going to take you twice as long as it should. So go through this portal, learn how to research, and then, like I said, you don't have to learn it again, but you will save yourself some time if you start out doing it correctly. So make a deal with yourself that you're going to invest in your own education as much as you can. Don't take shortcuts in this process. Argument and critical thinking. So critical thinking is imperative for researchers, and what critical thinking means is you read your source and you kind of evaluate, does that sound reasonable? Is this person, are their methods, do their methods make sense? So this is how you, or where you can go if you have to write an argumentative essay. So for example, I just wrote an article about structure in elementary schools, and is kind of considered argumentative. So the reader is going to look at what I've written and decide whether my arguments make sense. So visit here, and again, Excelsior, it's a great website. Get used to it, bookmark it so that you can go back to it. Then we have evaluating a website. So not all websites are equal. And yes, you might Google your topic and something comes up and you're like, great, there's my answer. Hold on, not necessarily. I'm not going to play this video, but this is a video that will help you look at websites. Like I said, notice their domain, education, government, commercial, and decide whether what you're reading on that website is really viable, truthful, accurate. And then evaluating sources. So again, just because you find an article doesn't mean it's necessarily good information for you. So this will take you through, whether your source is suitable, viable, good for what you're trying to do for your assignment. Authorship, I want to talk a little bit about timeliness. So when you find an article or you find a study and it was published 10 years ago. That might be okay depending on your subject. So if you're talking about literature or art, things don't really change with those topics. Literature is literature. Now, how you teach literature might change. Okay, we're always developing new and better strategies, but overall, it's not necessarily going to change. However, if you're looking for science, so say global warming or climate change, we know that's being updated constantly. The more data we get, the more conclusions we can draw and see correlation. So if you're in the field of education, the general rule is about 5 years for a study. But again, it depends on the topic. Some things kids don't change, or things about teaching don't change. So education topics, generally 5 years. But if you find something, say, about John Dewey, that's not going to change. It's because he's long gone, right? So that's where critical thinking comes in. Is this information too old and it's not accurate anymore, and we've found out new information? Or yes, this was written 20 years ago, but it's still good to use. It's still good information. Okay, so that is a kind of brief conversation about the research and analysis portal within the LRC. I hope this has been helpful for you. I highly recommend you visit each of these portals, but especially in the beginning, peer assessment, academic writing, research and analysis, academic honesty, and if English is either not your native language or it's been a while since you were in school learning the rules, the English language resources. All right, so that's going to conclude this video. I hope it's been helpful for you. And remember that you can always reach out to ask me any questions you have.